My friends, every day the world leans in and whispers to you. Sometimes it speaks in the thunder of your struggles, and sometimes it hums softly through the quiet corners of your heart. But make no mistake, life is always talking. The question is, are you willing to listen? For in the rustle of the morning breeze, in the hesitation before a choice, in the echo of your own breath, there rests a wisdom older than time. And those who learn to listen, truly listen, discover strength where there was fear, clarity where there was confusion, and courage where there was doubt. Today, I invite you to open not just your ears, but your spirit to the lessons waiting for you every single day. The world speaks in ways many people overlook. It speaks in the stillness before dawn, in the quiet moments when no one is watching, in the pauses between your thoughts. There is a language woven into the silence, soft, steady, ancient. When you choose to slow down, when you choose to breathe and be present, you begin to hear it. The world is not always loud, nor does wisdom always arrive with fanfare. Sometimes it arrives like a gentle tap on the shoulder, a reminder that you are part of something larger, something endlessly alive. And when you listen to that silence, you begin to understand yourself in ways words could never explain. There is a rhythm to life that speaks to those who pay attention. Every sunrise carries a message of renewal, a promise that no night lasts forever. Every sunset whispers the truth that even the brightest days must come to rest. Nature has always been the great teacher, offering lessons without ever needing a single spoken word. The sway of the trees, the patience of the mountains, the persistence of the river, they all reveal truths about resilience, growth, and grace. But you can only absorb those truths if you allow yourself to be still long enough to hear them. Listening is not just an act, it is a discipline, a practice of surrendering to the moment and accepting the wisdom it holds. Too often we drown in noise, noise from the world, noise from others, noise from our own fears. We rush, we react, we fill our lives with distractions because silence can feel uncomfortable. But silence is where transformation begins. When you choose to listen, truly listen, you learn the difference between the urgent and the important. You begin to separate the voices that lift you from the ones that limit you. You start to notice how your body speaks, how your intuition guides you, how your spirit nudges you toward what is right. There is power in listening to what is not said, in understanding the meaning beneath the surface. That kind of listening can change your path entirely. There will be days when silence feels heavy, when the world's whispers sound more like warnings than comfort. Those are the moments when listening becomes even more crucial. For hidden inside that quiet is a strength you may have forgotten you have. Sometimes the world speaks not to calm you, but to awaken you, to remind you that you are capable of more, deserving of more, destined for more. Every silent lesson shapes you, molds you, and invites you to rise a little higher than the day before. When you learn to hear the world even in its stillness, you unlock a wisdom that guides you through confusion, steadies you through chaos, and lifts you through doubt. And so each day becomes an invitation to pause, to open your heart, to listen with intention. When you honor that invitation, you discover that silence is not empty. Silence is full, full of guidance, full of answers, full of the voice you've been needing to hear. The world speaks, even in silence. All you have to do is learn to hear it. When you listen deeply, life begins to unravel itself in ways no teacher, no book, and no lecture could ever offer. There is a kind of truth that cannot be handed to you. It must be felt, witnessed, and absorbed through your own quiet attention. Life does not always speak in the language of logic. Sometimes it speaks through experience, through the warm glow of a victory you worked hard for, or through the sting of a mistake that humbled you. When you listen, you begin to notice that the world isn't trying to rush you, it is trying to shape you. And the shaping happens not in the loud moments, but in the ones where you pause long enough to understand what life is trying to tell you. There are truths that sit beneath the surface of ordinary days. They do not announce themselves, nor do they insist on your recognition. They wait patiently for you to grow quiet inside yourself. When you listen beyond the noise of your worries and the chatter of your fears, you begin to hear the subtle wisdom that life has been offering you all along. You start to realize that every challenge was not just a burden, but a teacher. Every disappointment carried a lesson about strength. Every closed door whispered something about timing, trust, and protection. But you only recognize these truths when you begin to listen with more than your ears, when you listen with your understanding. Deep listening changes how you see the world. You stop reacting so quickly and start responding with intention. You notice patterns, how certain choices lead you into peace, while others pull you into confusion. You become more aware of the energy you carry and the energy you allow around you. Life begins to show you that not everyone speaks truthfully, but everyone speaks honestly, because their actions reveal the truth of their character. And when you learn to listen to actions more than promises, you free yourself from unnecessary hurt. You start aligning yourself with people who nourish your spirit rather than drain it. Listening deeply also means listening to yourself. It means hearing the quiet warnings you ignored in the past, the gentle nudges you brushed aside, the inner voice that often whispers long before it ever raises its tone. That voice is your compass, your guide, your protector. It knows what you need, even when you don't yet have the words for it. When you listen to that inner wisdom, you stop settling for less than you deserve. You stop moving toward people who cannot meet you where you stand. You begin to honor your instincts, your boundaries, and your worth. And the more you listen, the more life reveals. It shows you that growth is not random, healing is not accidental, peace is not coincidence. These truths unfold in the quiet, in the reflection, in the moments when you sit with your thoughts and allow your heart to speak. Listening deeply is an act of courage because it requires honesty, it requires vulnerability, but it also offers the greatest reward, a life guided not by fear or noise, but by truth. And truth, when you finally hear it, is the most freeing sound in the world. Listening is a form of love, one of the purest kinds, because it asks nothing in return except your presence. When you truly listen to someone, you gift them something rare in this world, the feeling of being seen, being understood, being valued without judgment. Many people speak, but very few are ever heard. And when you become that person who listens, really listens, you invite others to unfold their truth without fear. You create a space where their burdens feel lighter, their hearts feel softer, and their stories feel safe. Listening is not passive, it is a generous offering. It says, I care enough to pause my world so I can understand yours. And there is no greater kindness than that. Listening as love extends beyond words. Sometimes a person will tell you the most important things without speaking at all. Their eyes hold exhaustion they haven't admitted. Their silence carries pain they don't know how to explain. Their laughter hides a tremble no one else has bothered to notice. When you listen with compassion, you begin to hear what their soul is whispering through the cracks of their everyday expressions. You begin to understand that everyone is carrying something, and the simple act of listening can become the bridge that reconnects them to hope. Not every heart needs advice. Some hearts just need to be witnessed. But listening as love is not only something you extend to others, it is something you must also extend to yourself. Too often we drown out our own voice with the expectations of others, the noise of comparison, or the demands of a world that asks us to keep moving even when we are breaking. You silence your needs to appear strong. You ignore your emotions to seem unaffected. You push aside your exhaustion so you don't disappoint anyone. Yet your soul is always speaking, always calling you back to yourself. It whispers when you're stretching too thin. It hums when something is not right. It warns you when your peace is slipping away. To love yourself is to listen to that voice before it has to shout. It is to recognize that your needs matter, your fears matter, your healing matters. When you begin listening to your own heart with the same gentleness you offer others, something extraordinary happens. You stop abandoning yourself. You begin to honor your boundaries. You start to prioritize your well-being without guilt. You learn the difference between what drains you and what nurtures you. You make choices not out of fear or obligation, but out of alignment with who you truly are. And that shift, that internal act of listening, becomes the foundation of your strength. Listening is a form of love because it brings people closer to you, to themselves, and to the truth that lies beneath the surface of their lives. When you listen without interrupting, without rushing, without trying to fix everything, you teach others what respect feels like. You show them what compassion looks like. You remind them that they matter. And when you extend that same listening inward, you remind yourself that you matter too. Love begins in the quiet. It grows in the spaces where we pause, pay attention, and allow ourselves to hear what has been waiting to be acknowledged all along. Every sunrise carries a message for those willing to receive it. It does not shout, it does not demand, it does not insist. It simply rises, slowly, faithfully, with a quiet confidence that lights the world one gentle stroke at a time. When you learn to listen to a sunrise, you learn the power of beginnings. You learn that no matter how dark the night has been, the morning will always find its way back to you. The sky does not ask if you are ready. It simply offers you another chance, and that in itself is a message worth hearing. You are allowed to begin again as many times as it takes. There is something sacred in the way the morning light touches the earth. It reminds you that healing is not sudden, it is gradual. The dawn does not jump from darkness to brilliance in an instant. It moves softly, giving the world time to adjust. Life asks the same of you, to rise slowly, to grow gently, to forgive yourself for not becoming everything at once. When you listen to the quiet unfolding of the morning, you understand that patience is a form of grace. You realize that your life, like the day, does not need to start perfectly. It only needs to start. The message of each sunrise is layered, and it speaks differently depending on the season of your life. On some mornings, it whispers encouragement. You can try again today. On others, it offers comfort. What hurt you yesterday does not have to define you today. And sometimes it brings clarity. Here is a moment to reset, a moment to breathe, a moment to remember who you are. The light stretches across the horizon, not just to illuminate the world, but to illuminate your spirit. If you pause long enough to receive it, you begin to see your life from a higher, calmer place. The sunrise also teaches humility. It rises whether or not anyone is watching. It rises without applause, without praise, without acknowledgement. And through that simple consistency, it reminds you that your value is not measured by who notices your efforts. Some of your greatest growth will happen in silence, in private, in the unseen corners of your life. But just like the morning sun, those quiet transformations will eventually shine through. Listening to the sunrise teaches you to honor your progress even when no one else does. And perhaps the most powerful message the sunrise offers is this: every day is a new page. Yesterday's mistakes, yesterday's worries, yesterday's heartbreaks, they do not own today. The sun does not carry the weight of the night into the morning, and neither should you. Each dawn invites you to release what no longer serves you, to step out of yesterday's shadow, and to walk toward what is waiting for you now. When you listen to that invitation, truly listen, you begin to understand that renewal is not just possible, it is promised. So let each sunrise speak to you. Let it soften your fears, lift your spirit, and remind you that beginnings are gifts, not obligations. Let it tell you that no matter how many times life knocks you down, the morning will always rise, and you can rise with it. Wisdom is not born from the noise we make, but from the moments we choose to absorb rather than respond. You grow wiser not by speaking, but by paying attention to the world, to others, and to yourself. There is a depth of understanding that only reveals itself when you stop rushing to be heard and start allowing life to show you what it has been trying to teach you. Too many people mistake speaking for knowing and noise for clarity. But true wisdom comes from observation, from quiet reflection, from letting the truth settle into you instead of trying to force it out of yourself. When you pay attention, you begin to see life with sharper eyes and a gentler heart. Paying attention means noticing the small details that others overlook. The hesitation in someone's voice, the shift in someone's energy, the patterns in your own habits. These small details are the threads that weave together a bigger understanding of the world. When you slow down enough to pay attention, you start to recognize the lessons hidden in everyday encounters. A stranger's kindness teaches you compassion. A moment of conflict teaches you patience. A disappointment teaches you resilience. Life is always instructing you, but you must be present enough to catch the message before it slips away. Wisdom doesn't rush. It arrives in pieces, gathered through intentional awareness. Here is a humility in paying attention. It requires you to acknowledge that you do not know everything, that others have experiences and perspectives that can enrich your own if you are willing to listen. When you stop focusing on what you want to say next and instead open your mind to what is being offered to you, you begin to understand people with a deeper empathy. You start to see beyond their words and into the heart of their meaning. You recognize that every person has something to teach you about strength, about love, about regret, about endurance. When you pay attention, your world grows wider, softer, and more human. Paying attention also means noticing yourself, your reactions, your triggers, your joys, your wounds. Many people go through life speaking loudly but understanding themselves very little. They defend without knowing what they're protecting. They chase goals without knowing why those goals matter. Wisdom grows when you pause long enough to examine your own thoughts. Why did that moment hurt you? Why did that achievement fulfill you? Why did that fear hold you back? When you pay attention to your inner world, you begin to make decisions rooted in clarity rather than confusion. You stop repeating cycles that no longer serve you. You stop running from truths you need to face. There is power in learning to observe before you act. When you pay attention, you respond with wisdom instead of reacting with impulse. You recognize when silence is more powerful than argument. You understand when presence is more healing than advice. You learn that sometimes restraint, holding back your words, holding back your assumptions, is the greatest form of strength. Speaking can fill the air, but paying attention fills the mind. And the more you pay attention, the more life reveals itself in its purest, most honest form. Eventually, you discover that wisdom does not come from being the loudest voice in the room, but from being the one who understands the most. It comes from watching how people move, how life unfolds, how truth settles into the spaces where words fall short. When you choose to pay attention, you grow in ways that speaking alone could never accomplish. You begin to see your path with clarity, your relationships with compassion, and your purpose with confidence. And in that quiet, steady way, wisdom begins to bloom within you. Your soul is always speaking to you, though it rarely uses the language you expect. It doesn't shout, it doesn't demand, and it doesn't argue. It whispers, softly, steadily, in moments when your mind grows quiet enough to feel rather than think. This whisper lives in the tightness in your chest when something isn't right, in the flutter of excitement when something aligns with your truth, in the hesitation that stops you from stepping into the wrong place, and in the peace that settles over you when you finally follow what feels right. Your soul has been guiding you long before you had the courage to admit what you truly want, who you truly are, and what you truly deserve. But to hear it, you must create space within yourself. You must slow down, breathe, and allow those gentle inner nudges to rise to the surface. Too often, we silence the whisper because it doesn't always match what the world expects from us. We ignore the signs because they inconvenience our plans or challenge the image we've tried so hard to build. We push away our intuition because it asks us to confront truths we aren't ready to face. The soul will tell you when you are drifting away from your purpose, when a friendship has run its course, when a job is draining your spirit, or when a relationship is dimming your light. It speaks through discomfort. It speaks through longing. But when you refuse to listen, that whisper grows louder, not because your soul is angry, but because it is trying to protect you. What begins as a quiet pull becomes an ache. What begins as a soft warning becomes a storm inside you. There is a deep kindness in the way your soul warns you before it breaks you. The whisper is compassion. The scream is urgency. And many people don't learn to listen until the scream arrives, until the situation becomes unbearable, the environment becomes toxic, or the path they chose begins to crumble beneath them. But the soul never abandons you. Even in the moments you turned away from it, it has been waiting for you to come back to yourself. It has been waiting for you to admit what you've known all along. That peace is worth protecting, that joy is worth pursuing, that truth is worth honoring. Listening to your soul requires courage because it will tell you when something must change. It will reveal when you're living too small, loving too little, or settling too much. It will remind you of dreams you buried to fit into someone else's expectations. It will guide you toward people who nourish you and away from those who diminish you. And it will always pull you toward the life that belongs to you, not the one you inherited, not the one you performed, but the one you ache for in your quietest moments. When you listen to those whispers, you begin to live with intention rather than habit. You begin to choose yourself not out of selfishness, but out of truth. And the more you honor that inner voice, the softer your life becomes. Decisions feel clearer, relationships feel healthier, your path feels lighter. You stop arguing with your own spirit and start walking in alignment with it. Your soul whispers before it screams because it always offers you grace before it gives you warnings. And when you choose to listen at the whisper, you save yourself from the pain of ignoring what you already knew. You begin living not by force, but by honesty, not by pressure, but by purpose. And in that quiet agreement between you and your soul, you finally find the peace you've been searching for. People will always tell you who they are, but most of the time, they will not use their words to do it. Their actions, their habits, their choices, these are the true sentences of their character. When you learn to listen with your eyes, you begin to understand people far beyond what they claim or promise. Words can be rehearsed, polished, and sweetened, but actions are honest in a way the tongue can never fully imitate. A person's consistency, their effort, their attitude in moments when no applause is expected, these reveal the truth you cannot hear through sound alone. Listening with your eyes means watching how a person moves through life, how they treat others, how they handle disappointment, how they respond when nothing is in it for them. There is a quiet clarity that comes when you stop depending solely on what people say. You begin to notice the small behaviors that speak louder than declarations. Someone may tell you they care, but do they show up when you need them? Someone may insist they respect you, but do they honor your boundaries? Someone may promise you loyalty, but do their choices reflect that commitment? When you listen with your eyes, you no longer get tangled in empty assurances. You stop being persuaded by charm and start being guided by truth. And truth often hides in the spaces between words, the pauses, the inconsistencies, the unspoken shifts in behavior that reveal everything you need to know. Listening with your eyes also protects your heart. It teaches you to recognize patterns before they become pain. People reveal themselves in their priorities, the things they make time for, the responsibilities they avoid, the values they uphold even when no one is watching. You learn to see the difference between someone who treats you well out of convenience and someone who treats you well out of intention. You stop giving chances to those who repeatedly choose their comfort over your clarity. You stop confusing excuses with effort. Your vision becomes sharper, your intuition stronger, because you are no longer blinded by the hope that someone might become what they've never shown themselves to be. But listening with your eyes is not just about protecting yourself from harm, it is also about recognizing goodness. There are people whose kindness does not need to be advertised. There are souls who give quietly, who support without announcing it, who love in steady, dependable ways. Their actions may not be loud, but their presence is unmistakable. You see their sincerity in the way they remember the things that matter to you, in the way they offer help without being asked, in the way they treat others with dignity even when they gain nothing from it. Listening with your eyes allows you to appreciate these people more deeply because you hear their character through the consistency of how they move through the world. And perhaps most importantly, listening with your eyes helps you understand yourself. Your own actions reflect your truth just as clearly as anyone else's. You begin to notice where you invest your time, where you avoid the work, where your intentions and behavior align, and where they don't. You see the places where you give too much or shrink too small or stay too long out of fear rather than love. This awareness is not meant to shame you, but to guide you. When you listen to your own behavior, you begin to make choices that honor who you want to become. You act with more integrity, more consistency, more purpose. You become someone whose actions and words stand in harmony rather than contradiction. Listening with your eyes is simply learning to trust what life shows you instead of clinging to what you wish it would be. It is choosing observation over illusion, clarity over confusion, and truth over hope that lacks evidence. People reveal who they are through how they live, not through what they claim. And when you finally learn to listen in this deeper way, you protect your heart, you elevate your relationships, and you step into a life guided by the quiet honesty that actions always carry. The universe has a way of speaking to those who are willing to quiet the noise inside themselves. There is a rhythm, a gentle pull, a quiet intelligence woven into everything around you. But you can only sense it when you stop reacting to every disturbance and begin listening to the deeper movement beneath the surface of life. Reacting is easy. It is instant, emotional, often fueled by fear or impatience. Listening, however, requires presence. It requires you to step back, breathe, and trust that not every moment needs your immediate response. When you learn to listen more than you react, you open yourself to guidance that comes from a wiser place than your worries. The universe rewards the heart that listens because listening invites clarity. When you pause before reacting, you give yourself the chance to see situations for what they truly are, not just what they feel like in the heat of the moment. You notice the difference between urgency and importance, between noise and truth. You begin to understand that some battles are not meant to be fought. Some comments do not need answers, and some conflicts lose their power the moment you choose not to feed them. Listening creates space for understanding. Reacting creates confusion, and the universe tends to bless the path that brings peace rather than chaos. Listening more than reacting also deepens your intuition. When you allow yourself to sit with a feeling instead of acting on it instantly, you begin to recognize what your spirit is trying to show you. You sense whether something aligns with your values or pulls you away from them. You notice when a situation drains you or when a connection nourishes you. You hear the subtle warning in your hesitation, the quiet encouragement in your excitement, the gentle pull toward decisions that honor your growth. The universe speaks through these quiet signals, guiding you toward what strengthens you and away from what diminishes you. Reacting blinds you to this guidance, but listening helps you follow it. There is wisdom in knowing that silence is sometimes the strongest response. Not every moment deserves your energy. Not every comment deserves your peace. When you learn to listen, to yourself, to others, to the energy of the situation. You conserve your strength for what truly matters. You begin to see how many problems dissolve when you stop feeding them with impulse. You start to understand that patience is not passive, it is powerful. It allows the truth to reveal itself without your interference. It gives clarity the time it needs to rise above confusion. The universe rewards the heart that listens because listening is an act of trust. It shows that you believe in timing, in alignment, in the natural unfolding of things. It shows that you're willing to wait for the right moment instead of forcing the wrong one. And in return, life has a way of offering opportunities that meet you exactly where you are ready. Blessings arrive with more ease. Solutions appear where before there were only problems. Doors open that you had once strained to push. When you choose listening over reacting, you begin to move in harmony with life rather than against it. And the most beautiful reward of all is the peace that settles inside you, a peace that comes from not needing to control everything, a peace that grows from trusting your own intuition, a peace that allows life to unfold without constant resistance. When you listen more than you react, you begin to understand that the universe is not trying to rush you, it is trying to guide you. And when you finally allow yourself to hear that guidance, your life becomes softer, clearer, and more aligned with the person you are meant to be.